Hey everyone, welcome back to the Successful Lead Generating Coach Show. My name is Arfan, co-founder, co-owner of Grow Automate Scale, where we help coaches leverage the power of Facebook marketing so they can generate more leads and more sales and more clients, right? And today I have a another guest expert interview, and I'm super excited to have my guest today. Before I dive into who he is, I want to tell you a story about how I met him. So we have Paul Grau Jr. and I met Paul back in 2019. I was at a conference that was teaching a lot about copywriting and business building. Now I'm actually interested to know why you were there as well, because I haven't actually asked you that, but this was predominantly for women. The only reason I was there is because my wife was part of the program and you were able to bring like a plus one, and so she brought me.
That's the
Um,
same with me.
okay, that makes a lot of sense. So this was before Grau Scale ever even existed. Met Paul, and he stood out because what we're going to be talking about today is really the importance of self awareness and how it's a must in order to like know, communicate, and lead others effectively. To be able to really get a better understanding of yourself as a leader. And Paul he's certified in the DISC, DISK. So when we met, he
B,
made a
BISC.
the ISC. See, I don't even know what it is, right? So, I do like so I've taken the disc assessment a very long time ago, and so I'm really happy to have a conversation with Paul because I could use a refresher myself because the disc is it's an awesome tool. It's a self assessment tool that really allows you to measure your personality and your behavior style, and it really is a really great path towards getting a lot of self-awareness of who you are. So I'm excited to talk to an expert that is Paul here. But so we met back in 2019, and he made a little disc joke, and I won't actually say the joke unless he wants to say it himself. But Paul, in terms of who Paul is and why I have him on here and why we're talking about a leadership topic, is because Paul is a he's a leadership coach. So he helps with leadership training and coaching for those who are part of a team or those who are supervising a team. So if you really identify someone right now who's in that middle management area, you have a team, whether it's 3 or 10 or so. Paul has just a great amount of experience and just working and coaching with you. And, you know, I think what I'm probably most impressed by is that Paul has been in the U.S. Air Force for 26 years. He retired in 2013. So I want to take this opportunity to say thank you so much for your service, Paul, and also thank you for being on the show. So I want to toss it over to you and just kind of tell us a little bit about your journey and like how you were led to become an expert in disc assessment, to be a trainer that's certified in the disc tool.
Yeah, so thanks for having me on, Arfan, first and foremost. Man, I know we're a former client of yours, and I know how awesome you are at what you do. So appreciate you having me on and taking the time to talk about this. And
Happy to have
so
you.
I started with the disc itself. I started back. I probably had my first or took my first disc assessment back in the Air Force. I think I had an assessment about once every 3 years or so. Every time you move bases, it seemed your new unit, they might be getting one and you'd get a new one. Well, the thing is, we never really had somebody explain the results to us. We would get the results, and everybody on the team would be like, "Oh yeah, I'm a D, I'm an I, I'm an S, I'm a C,"
Mm,
but we knew the bare minimum of what that meant. So when I retired, I had already taken a disc probably 5 or 6 times. So I had been aware of it for a good 15, 20 years, more or less. And
mm.
when I retired, I worked for the VA for 54 weeks. That's a whole nother story. But then when I left the VA, I resigned and I started my own business because my wife, Jennifer, and business partner, she emailed me this link about Dan Miller. And I had the book 48 Days to the Work You Love, and she emailed me this ad, that he has this personalized coaching. And I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. And Jen's like, man, this sounds exactly like like you to a T. So that's how I got into coaching. And I picked leadership because ever since I've been like 13 years old, I have been just really intrigued by leadership and how different leadership styles
Mm-hmm.
can get the same result.
Mm.
And I saw when I was young, started working when I was 13 on a farm in New Jersey. Where I grew up, it was still all dairy farms. It's probably all housing developments now. But
Yeah.
I worked for two brothers, and these brothers were like complete opposites. The one was really a people person and everybody loved him. The other one was just the opposite. Nobody liked him, but everybody got the work done when he was around.
Mm-hmm.
We got it done when he was around because we were almost, he led with that fear factor almost. The other guy, we respected him and we loved him because that's why we worked for him. But ever since those two brothers, it really intrigued me. And that's how I got into leadership. And I've always, I mean, I'm a leadership geek, I call myself, because I'll watch a movie
Yeah.
and I'll pick out leadership moments in the movie. Oh, this, you see even in cartoons. All
That's
right.
awesome. I love
So
that.
it's really, really funny. So it was a natural pick when I became a coach to say, hey, I want to be a leadership coach because I love
Mm-hmm.
working with mid-level leaders. I love making leaders better because
Mm-hmm.
only statistically, only 30% of leaders in leadership positions have had any kind of formal training.
That's
So that
wow.
means and that was
Staggering.
that was statistics from quite a while ago. So it's
Mm-hmm.
probably less than that now because everybody knows we're in a leadership shortage, right? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
you figure 70+% of leaders never had any kind of training.
Mm.
They get promoted into these jobs because their businesses think, oh, they're a really good employee. So naturally, they'll make a good leader. Well, that
Yeah.
doesn't always coincide with each other. That doesn't always
Mm-hmm.
sync up. And some people don't want to be a leader. They want to come to work, be told what to do, and then leave.
Mm-hmm.
And so it does take a different person to take on leadership responsibilities. And that's why I love working with leaders right there alone because they do have responsibilities and they're willing to take them on. And
Mm-hmm.
the better the leader is trained and the better leader you have, the happier the employees are.
Absolutely. 100%.
And so when I was in the Air Force, probably my favorite job in my 26 years in the Air Force was I worked at an NCO academy on Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado Springs. And for 5 years, I got to teach leadership, communication,
Mm-hmm.
professional arms, but leadership and management was the bulk of that. And I fell in love with it. And the staff and the faculty that we had in that school was second to none. Best of the
That's
best.
awesome.
They're like brothers and sisters to me to this day. And a lot of the stuff that I teach now has a lot of the foundation from that school because, everybody, once you know the basics,
Mm-hmm.
you're good to go. The cool thing about leadership is I won't consider myself a leadership expert probably ever because I really think of a leader as somebody who's always growing.
Yes. Yes.
Because I've never led you, Arfan. So how can I call myself a leadership expert? Right? I
Yeah.
can I can go in thinking, okay, I want to learn, I want to lead Arfan this way, but until I get to know you, I can't really lead you in the most
Mm-hmm.
effective way.
Absolutely.
So that's what I say about leaders are always learning. And I love it. And I got certified in the DISC with the 48 days as a 48 days coach. And then I got into the John Maxwell program. So I'm a Maxwell certified team leader or coach as well, team member. And I got recertified through them. And I got certified as a trainer and a consultant through them.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you can say I'm a behavior analyst, right?
Gonna put a
But
title on it. There it is.
yeah, I just love it because the DISC, and there's all kinds of assessments out there. I know you use the Strengths Finder, there's
Yeah, the character
Enneagram.
strengths.
A lot of times there's the Myers Briggs, and everybody who's certified in each one thinks theirs is the best. And I think that should be the way it is because ultimately it's just getting to know
Mm-hmm.
who you are and how you can figure out other
Yeah.
people and lead them to the best of your ability
Yeah. And this
so
goes
they
this
can
goes
basically reach their full potential.
Yeah, and like this, the one thing that I love about this is because I was there myself, right? And the stuff we're talking about here is that when you start getting self awareness, start using these tools like the DISC assessment, the Myers Briggs, the Clifton Strengths, whichever it is. As we were all, we learned, we went to school, whatever the case may be. We really understood that we learn a certain way. That's why there were certain teachers that got through to us because they also taught a certain way. So similarly, when you find a match like the this tool and your personality style, like Paul has, and Paul teaches a lot of other a lot of leaders to also find out how to match this up. This applies beyond just the workplace, and that was one of my experiences that take using a lot of these self-assessment tool allowed me to start shifting my mindset and being able to know that hey, I can be a great boss, a manager, a supervisor to my team. And I can also be a great husband, father, and start looking now to become an entrepreneur because I'm starting to just really just understand how to work with with my own personal strengths, the things that make me who I am, and things that also just motivate me. Because now, hey, this doesn't feel difficult and hard. It's kind of easy because it's within my strength. So, can you talk to us a little bit about the disc assessment, how it's used in that aspect to help you to just improve your own self and be that next better version?
Yeah, and what I'll probably do is share my screen if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. And just before I share it, I wanted to let you know that you're right on the money when you say it applies everywhere in your life. And not only does it apply to get to know yourself and where different areas of your life, your strengths, your communication styles, leadership styles, it helps you identify where other people kind of fall. And it's not to put them in a box by any means, but to get that general idea of where that people is the majority of the time or where those
Mm-hmm.
people are. That allows you to communicate the way they want to be communicated with. All
Mm-hmm.
right.
Yeah.
And you got the platinum or the golden rule, which is treat others the way they want to be treated or the way you want to be treated. And then you
Mm-hmm.
got the platinum rule is treat everybody the way they want to be treated. The
Wow.
disc allows you to do that. And
That's
I'll
amazing.
explain that a little bit. So I'll share my screen and
Yeah,
I'll
let's go
walk you
through it.
through.
Let's
And
dive
this is
in.
my personal disc results. And I'm showing you this page of the disc. And this is the Maxwell method of disc. And I'm a John Maxwell certified coach, speaker, trainer as well. So again, I got certified through them. The key difference between the Maxwell disc and other discs are this assessment gives you these three graphs. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the three graphs. If you're listening to
Mm-hmm.
the podcast, I'll kind of walk you through these. But the center graph, if you're looking at YouTube, the center graph here is kind of your go to. It's kind of how God wired you. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And this is your go to. Like when you get backed into a corner or in a stressful situation, this is the behavioral style that you are going to display. Now you look over to the left side, this is your mask. This is the graph that's going to show you the public mask that you put on. So
Uh-huh.
when you're at work, when you're in public, this is kind of more of the behavioral style that you're going to display. And then
Okay.
finally over to the right side, this is more of how you see yourself. So
Mm.
you can see here the shape of my graph is similar, which is good. All right. And the further apart the graphs are, the better, because that really means that you're really comfortable with what you're doing. Now, this one was taken in 2022. So this is the most recent one I have. And if you look at this, my final is it comes out as an IDC. That's
Mm-hmm.
the way I see myself, with the C barely above the midline. The natural wiring, however, has me as a CID,
Mm.
as you can see this on if you're on YouTube. And then the one on the left, my public mask that I put on is in ID with the D just above the line with a very high I. So that tells me or tells anybody else in public around people, my eye is shining. And basically, an
Mm-hmm.
eye, if you look at the top of this blue graph or this blue chart here,
Yeah.
this page right here is really all I have to look at to tell a story and to learn about you. So, Arfan, if you were to take a disc, I could look at this page and pretty much give you a narrative of what's going on in your life,
Mm-hmm.
how you see yourself, what's your go-to behavior in the public eye, and
Mm-hmm.
what you think about yourself. And if there's a
Gotcha.
drastic change, like with me, my I goes up and my C goes really down in public. Well, what I do now, I love. I absolutely love working with leaders and their teams and seeing them just come together as one unit,
Yeah.
respecting each other, really focusing on their strengths, communicating with each other in the way that they want to be communicated with. Uh, it's just unbelievable. So in a public eye, I my eye is really just very
Yeah. So
high.
so really quick, let's break this down just a quick bit because the disc, which is
Yep.
DISC,
Yep.
and those four things are, if we're looking at the chart here, right, or the screen here, we have dominant, so
Yep.
D, influencing for I, steady for S, and C for compliant.
Right.
And below that, it shows there's five different categories of seeks, strengths, challenges, dislikes, and decisions. So when we say we're so like for example, looking at your chart, and you said the first chart, which represents the self, the public self, your I is the highest,
Yep.
right? But when we talk about the private self, your C is the highest. What does that exactly mean? So when it's the I is the highest, so in public you're looking for recognition. What is what can you break that down a little bit more for us? Like
Yeah.
what does that
So
actually look like?
absolutely. So the differences are, first of all, the D and the C, they are more task focused. So they're focused
Okay,
more on work than they are on people. Primary task.
gotcha.
Let's get the job done. The I and the S are just the opposite. They're focused primarily on people first and
Mm-hmm.
task second. So when I say my I is high in the public, I am focused on the people. And it makes sense
Okay.
because as a coach, I am really focused on the people that I'm coaching. And that's what I
Mm-hmm.
love. I love meeting new people. I've never met a stranger. Okay. And I love that. So as an I, my I tendencies are fine. You've known me enough, long enough where I can talk. All right.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
talking. I can tell stories. I love, the upbeat, positive energy,
Mm-hmm.
enthusiastic. And it says here some of my strengths are persuading, enthusiasm, entertaining,
Mm-hmm.
influencing. That's the I. It says I seek recognition. So I want to, if I'm doing a good job, I want my leader or my
Mm-hmm.
people to recognize that, hey, he's doing a good job. And you
Yeah.
could recognize me in front of the entire town, and that's fine with me. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good with that. Um, Now, I also, some of my challenges, however, are lack of detail, short attention span,
Mm-hmm.
squirrel, all right, chasing squirrels,
Yeah. Gotcha. Gotcha.
and low follow through. So if
Mm-hmm.
somebody, like my wife and I are business partners, if she and I agree that I will do a certain task, I got to really focus on that task because if something else comes up, I get
Mm-hmm.
very easily distracted. Plus, my
Gotcha.
ADHD doesn't help with that. So she might have to follow up with me and say, "Hey, how's it going on that one project?" "Oh, yeah, it's right here. It's good."
Mm-hmm.
Um, Low follow through, short attention span. I'm reading 5 books at any given time at the same
Mm-hmm.
time. All right. Because
Okay.
I'll get bored with one. I'll put one down. I'll pick up another one. So that's my short attention span. Routines, I dislike routines and complexity. Complex
Okay.
problems, details, I don't like that as an I.
Mm.
And I make my decisions very spontaneously. You ask me to do something, yeah, let's do this. I don't have to think about it. More than likely, I'm thinking fun around
Mm-hmm.
people. because the I's, they bring the gift of entertainment to the team. They only make up
Yeah.
13% of the population, though. All right.
Gotcha.
Now,
Gotcha.
I also display a D. Now, my D is my dominant side. That is, I seek control, administrative, or my strengths are administration, leadership, determination, big picture, results. I want results.
Hmm.
The D's bring the gift of direction. So when the D and the I get together, the direction, my D in me is going to keep me going and focusing on results. When the
Hmm.
I in me is going to kind of, hey, no, FOMO, right? The I's have FOMO. So with me, I have to, when I'm working, a lot of times I have to really get my D engaged and have my D be the leader and put my I to the side
Hmm.
so I can focus and stay pointed in that right direction. D's only make up 3% of the population.
Oh, okay. Wow.
But if you work for one, it's more, you'd think they make up about 75% of the population because they are very dominant. Okay.
Hmm.
The D's challenges are they can be very impatient, they can be very insensitive, and they are just not a good listener.
Mm.
And they make decisions very decisively. They'll make a decision and man, they're not going to change their mind. All
Hmm.
right. Now, opposite of the I is the C. And the C is like the D, very task oriented, but it focuses on accuracy. They are the logistical people in your team. So
Hmm.
good finance, good. I work with a lot of engineers and engineering teams. I see a lot of C's because they're very detail oriented.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Their strengths are planning, systems, orchestration. Their challenges are perfectionism
Mm.
in themselves, and they expect perfectionism from others. They can also be very critical of themselves and others, and they can be unresponsive at times. And what I mean by unresponsive, my wife and I will talk sometimes, and she has a little bit higher C than I do. Well, I'll ask her a question, and sometimes she just won't respond. And my eye is like, come on, hey, did you hear me?
Yeah.
And she's like, yes, I'm thinking about it. Let me think about this,
Hmm.
because her C is really thinking about it. And that's what's cool because the C's and the S's need about 7 seconds before they're going to respond and talk.
Oh, that's really good to know.
The I's and the D's, they're going to respond like instantly or definitely within 2 to 3 seconds.
Mm. Okay. Okay.
So if you're in a meeting and you want to figure out who your C's and S's are, they're the ones that aren't talking.
Yeah. I gotcha.
The rapid responders, they're your I's and D's.
Hmm.
Okay. And it says here the D's make their decisions very methodically, step by step. Risk, they are very low risk takers. They'll take, if it's a high percentage risk of things going to go right, they're happy
Hmm.
with that. But if there's
Gotcha.
a 40% chance that it's going to go right, they're a little bit timid. Now, the S's are the last one. The S's make up 69% of the population. So somebody, about 70% of the population has some kind of S in their behavioral style.
Okay.
And the S's, they're your team players. They are the most loyal people on your team. And the S's, ironically, are everybody's best friend because they love
Mm.
listening. They'll listen to you
Good
forever
listeners.
if you need to. All right. And they seek that acceptance from the team. They have strong follow through. You give them a job, they're going to do it. Whether they need to, if they need to stay there till midnight, they're going to stay. They'll work overtime. They're going to get it
Wow.
done. But S's can be a little bit oversensitive and slow to begin, and they can dislike change.
Mm.
And I say dislike change if you give an S time to accept the change and you really focus on the benefits to the team, then the S's will be all about the change, and they'll be like change agents for you. And
Gotcha. So
that's
they're the kind of mindset of if it's not if it's not broken, why try to fix it or why change it? Just working as is. Just let it stay
yeah.
that way.
The S when it says steady, think of a lake. You ever see a lake on a windless day? No
Yeah.
wind at all. It's like
It's just
glass.
steady. It's like glass. Yeah. Smooth.
That's the way the S likes their environment.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
like any changes. They like the same routines. Tell them what to do, and they're going to do it.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
if they're
Exactly.
skilled, just give them a job and let them do it because they're going to do it. But they don't like rocking the boat. And that
Hmm.
goes right down to here with their decisions. They're very conferring. So if you give an S on your team the task of, okay, I need you to schedule, reserve a place for lunch. We're taking a team of 10 people out to lunch. What the S is going to do is they're going to go around and individually talk to everybody on the team and ask them what they like for lunch. What's their
Wow.
favorite place? And then they're going to weigh everything and they're going to be like, oh, because they don't want to upset anybody.
Hmm.
They want to confer with the whole team to make sure they're making the best decision because they don't want to upset anybody. They don't want to tick anybody off. They don't want to get anybody's bad side.
Yeah. 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 That makes a lot of sense.
Decisiveness in the D, on the other hand, you give a D the task of making lunch reservations. They're going to call whoever wherever they want to go. If nobody likes it, tough. They do.
Yeah.
And we're getting
Yeah.
it done because making a lunch reservation to them is, hey, I need to make this so I can get back to work.
Hmm. Hmm.
So the cool thing, Arfan, is, and I think I can stop sharing this, but the coolest thing is when you know where people fall and where their general tendencies are and their general behavioral styles, now you have a baseline of how you can communicate with them. You
Yeah.
remember I said communicate the way they want to be communicated.
Hmm.
So the eyes,
Platinum rule.
yeah, the platinum rule. The eyes love talking. They love storytelling. If you go to an eye and you start giving them all the details of a project,
They're gonna glaze
they're,
over.
yeah, they're tuning you out. All right. And they're not going to remember everything. If you have 30 minutes information to give to an eye, break it up into like three or four different segments. All right.
Yeah.
5, 10 minutes at a time, and then come back 5 more. Because if you just sit there and give them details for 30 minutes, they're going to hate that.
Hmm.
The C's are like that, though. The C's want all the details.
Hmm.
And the C's are going to ask questions, but don't force them to ask questions. Give
Gotcha.
them time to look over everything, and they're going to come back and ask questions. All right.
Okay.
But they
Okay.
want all the details. The S is they just want it to be keep a friendly tone,
Hmm.
talk to them, don't push them. You want to really pull your S's, you
Yeah.
know. You
And this
want to
is
make them feel comfortable. And the D's, you want to tell them something and then get the heck out of their way. Because the D's biggest fears are people wasting their time or people taking advantage of them.
Mhm.
And remember, the D's, it's all about work, getting it done, big picture. So you don't have to tell them the details. You go in and say, hey, Mr. D, we're going to be done by Friday, and we have to do this, 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 and we're going to do. They don't want to know that. You're done by Friday. Okay, that's all. That's all I need to know. If
Yeah.
they want more information, they'll come and ask you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're pretty straightforward with that. This is
So
so
that's
good to
the
know. This is
primary
good.
way,
Like,
and it's really cool to figure this out in people. And once teams realize this, I've had so many people that have been communicating with an S using a D style,
mhm.
and they know, oh my gosh, that's why this person doesn't like me because I'm always really demanding of them.
Yeah.
The S's, the D's and S's are opposite, and the I's and C's are opposite. But the cool thing is, you need all of these on a team because you complement each other.
Yeah.
Where I showed
Absolutely.
that where I showed that the D's were like very poor listeners, the S's are great listeners.
Mm.
So they're opposites, but together they make a great team.
Yeah. And it's good to know who you're working with, because if you're an
Absolutely.
S and you're working with someone that's an I, and they can get to the point where they're just communicating and talking and talking and talking, and like it's like someone who doesn't have the self-awareness to know that, hey, I'm an I, and I can just get carried away and start talking and talking, and the S is going to just keep listening and listening and listening without asking any questions or without really just having that piece in like especially in a leadership where someone's giving a decision that needs to be done. So
Yeah.
it's great to really have that self-importance to know like, hey, are you an I? And just to be able to pause and to check in and to really give that time to get that 7 seconds to get a response back
Yeah.
versus just keep going and keep going and keep going. And
Yeah.
it makes it great for it makes a great and respectable leader when the other person can really feel that they're heard and that
Yeah.
their opinion, their thoughts, everything that they got matters, and they're
Oh, it's
important for
very
the team.
important because, like in a meeting, you want to get the S's opinions and thoughts and the C's opinions and thoughts because the C's, they're probably the smartest people on a team. They're
Mm-hmm.
very detail oriented. They know, but they're not going to shout out an answer right away because their biggest fear is being wrong or being criticized by people that are close to them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the S's, they're so good at listening and they're so great at knowing everybody. So your S's know everybody on the team. They probably know your kids' names, your pets' names, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so the other thing about the disc, once you know where people fall, you know what kind of environment to put them in to get the maximum productivity out of them.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what I love seeing with teams because a lot of times, if you have a C working in the middle of Cube City where people are passing by and talking to them all the time, they're going to be frustrated,
Mm-hmm.
very frustrated. If you want to get the most productivity from a C, put them in an office all by themselves
Yeah,
because
that
they
makes a lot of
love being
sense.
alone
They'll be alone.
and they
They'll
can
get it done. Their
focus.
task, their task focused and task oriented. Now, in the sense, so we talked a lot about in that work environment, like a supervisor role, leading a team,
Yeah.
which you understand, but more importantly, understanding those that are around you. Let's take this more like on a personal level, right? So, how using the DISC assessment in everyday life. So, prior to this starting off, I shared how a lot of the things that I've learned about myself as far as what my strengths were. I leveraged those to be able to become an entrepreneur
Yeah.
to be able to, while working, I was working 40, 50 hours a week plus the hour commute each way. To be able to devote any time to entrepreneurship can be pretty tough. And there are tools like this. So how can the DISC assessment be applied outside of just the workplace for one's own life to now be able to achieve goals better, right? To be able to, a lot of listeners are trying to become entrepreneurs or working to become full-time entrepreneurs, already entrepreneurs. And, I really see that this assessment, this tool as a way to really get to know that next layer of us. So I just want to get your opinions on how this could really be used in that environment.
Yeah, and that's a really good question. Goal focused, the D's are very goals focused. All right. They love goals and they're very specific on their goals and they love checking things off. The D's and the C's. The I's, they will have a list of things, but they're not really, they will be goal focused, but they're more general goals. I
Mm-hmm.
want to be, at this level. I want to be an entrepreneur and I want to be at this level. But the D's and the I, knowing where you stand on this, you'll see your different strengths come out too.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the more you know about yourself, again, you'll know your behavioral style, you'll know your communication style, you'll know the strengths. And you notice I say behavioral style. I don't think I've said personality style one time, right?
Mm-hmm. No, I
A
don't
lot
think
of
so.
times people look at the disc and say, oh, it's a personality assessment. It's a behavioral style assessment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the key thing because how do you behave in certain situations? So if you're on a personal level, if you are working on, say you reach a goal to read 30 books this year.
Mm-hmm.
If you're an I, you better have Audible because
Okay.
an I is probably not going to sit down and read a book, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they'll listen to Audible. And
Gotcha. Gotcha.
and 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 if you really want to get an I to read a lot of books, make it a team event
Mm-hmm.
where they're talking about it. Like I give masterminds, I do masterminds. I'm a John Maxwell coach, so all the Maxwell books or a majority of them, I can do like an 8 week mastermind where we go through that, and I go through with a
Mm-hmm.
team. Eyes love that because not only are they learning, but they get to they get to talk about that with others.
Okay. So that fuels their eye. That fuels their
Yeah,
eye. It gets that sense of self. It gets fueled.
right. And the D's and the C's, they're all about checklists,
Hmm.
right? So they like checking things off. The I's and the S's, they're the more steady, stable, and productivity. They're going to get stuff done,
Hmm.
and a lot of times and they're going to do things, but they can switch and be flexible too. Where the
Yeah.
D's and C's are more locked in, the I's and S's are a little bit more flexible.
Yeah.
My D and I in the Air Force, and this will change based on your environment too.
Hmm.
It could.
Yeah. That's what those three graphs kind of represented, right? So
Yeah.
there's one that's more public, like this is how I show up with others. The middle was more like this is how I show up for myself, right? And then the last one was more how I show up.
Well, yeah, that the middle is your natural wiring. That's your go-to. Like if
Okay.
you're under stress or tight deadline or backed into a corner, you're going to use that behavior. And you notice
Okay.
like my C goes way up. So I want it to be done right, but I also want it to be done, but I have some I in there too. So I kind of, I want to take care of the people while we're doing it.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, the one on the right is how you see yourself. So
Yeah.
if you're in public and you want it, like for me, if I want to be a really, if the job requires a lot of logistics and graphs and charts and financial numbers and details, that's not necessarily the best job for me
Hmm.
because my eye is not going to like that. So you
Yeah.
could take
Yeah. It's
that
a
into
mismatch
account
of where
when
you
you
are.
are setting your own goals too.
Hmm. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I think I look a lot of it as far as like when, if you're doing something and it's like you're finding you're having a difficult time or you're just like completely miserable and unhappy, it can be a way mismatch for your behavioral style
Oh yeah.
of, being stuck. Like if you are an I and you are in a role where you have to just copy and paste numbers all day, you're going to be
Yeah.
absolutely miserable because
Yep.
it's
And
against part of that identity.
another thing is if you have a D working for you, remember the D's are the dominant ones. They like being in control, right? So
Hmm.
so put them in control of something to
Hmm.
really entertain that D in them, to motivate them. And that's where you can learn about how to motivate people too once you know this because they're all motivated by something different.
Yeah.
And I didn't even get into that. So that's another thing I cover with teams.
Hmm.
But put a D in charge of something. And it could be as little as when I was in the Air Force and a young ranking airman, I was put in charge of taking the trash out in one of my shops, right? I was an aircraft machinist.
Hmm.
Well, I'll tell you, I was the best trash taker outer in the whole Air Force. All right. And I
Yeah.
took a lot of pride in that. But my supervisor and leader saw that and they just they told me what to do and I did it. And I even went
Hmm.
to the store and bought like these big rubber bands so the bags didn't fall down. And I mean, I took it
Yeah.
very serious.
Yeah. You
You
want to get
know,
it done the best way possible.
yeah. If you have an eye working for you, let them talk at times in front of other people.
Yeah.
Um, if you have morning notes or something, let them read a quote of the day or something. You know,
Hmm. Hmm.
let them be in front of people. Let them use
Yeah.
their eye. Because the more you can use that, and that goes for goals too, and anywhere in life, the more that you can match up what you're doing to what your disc says, the
Hmm.
happier you're going to be.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that was what I was asking about. Hey, use this in your personal life because as you now step into like for those of you who are like, hey, I'm in a job and I want to be a good leader, and even thinking about what you want to do outside of that, a side business that you're running as you step into entrepreneurship. What ends up happening is that your personality um, plays a big role, but your behavior style plays a large role too as well. And there's things you're going to have to do and eventually get people to come and support you. And this is where you start looking at where do I need to get support? Because if you're an eye and you like to be in the in the face of things, you like to be on the camera, you like to be at networking events, definitely look to have someone on your team that can complement you, like a VA that's a C, because now you're going to get a lot more stuff done. and get it done a lot more effectively, and you can really expand yourself. And this is one of the things I learned early on when we were using the disc assessment, was to really how to bring on people that really complement
Mhm.
our style. And what ends up happening is that the machine just starts running so much better. And even my
Yeah.
time before entrepreneurship, working in teams, knowing, and I wish I knew these things back then. Really,
Yeah.
I was kind of self-taught, and from my college days, and kind of learning a lot of these things out. We didn't really have a lot of these tools that were just given to us. So I'm glad like people like you, Paul, exist, who are actually now trying to help us reach more companies. So if you have a small team right now, you're not really doing anything for helping to develop. Paul's a great guy to bring in that can help you really work on training your teams. And even as on a personal level, if you are looking to get some leadership coaching, leadership training for yourself, so you could be a better team leader, Paul's your guy. And we were
Thanks.
talking before about, I was just wondering, like, hey, how does someone get a hold of you? Where do they need to be? So you can just share with us, like, where for someone who wants to work with you, where should they be at right now, and how can they actually get a hold to start potentially
Yeah,
having
so
conversations
probably
with
the
you?
best way to contact me is through email. And it's Paul at clcteam.com. And our
Mm-hmm.
company's Current Leadership Coaching, CLC. So Paul at clcteam.com. And I'll tell you what, can I give them a good offer here?
Yeah, if you want to, if you have something you want to share, absolutely.
All right, so I'll tell you what, if you want to talk about any of this or you just want information, and if you email me and you put either you use the code RFON YouTube or RFON podcast in like
Mm,
the subject line, and you email me uh, to set up like I call it a discovery call, just kind of talk about where you are, where you want to get.
mm,
It's like a free coaching call, and I'll give you a free coaching call, and I will give you my team communication simplified course
mm.
for free. And that's an online video course. I sell it for $97 and I'll give you that for free. And again, all you have to do is email me, Paul at clcteam.com, put either RFON YouTube or RFON podcast, depending on where you watch this or listened.
Mm.
And yeah, we'll set up an appointment and I will give you that team communication simplified video course. How's that?
Awesome. Now that sounds like something like, is that like basically like a how to apply the platinum rule? Kind of at the end of it, you
It
get
is.
certified in
It
the
will
platinum
cover
rule.
that. It will cover that. Yeah. And I just, I know I work with a lot of small teams, small entrepreneur companies, small businesses where they might have the owner and three or four people working for them. I
Mm,
love working with a team of people like that because once you go through an assessment like this and everybody knows where everybody else is,
yeah.
again, it's not to put them in a box, it's to bring out the best and help them reach their full potential.
Mm-hmm,
And it's
mm-hmm.
going to boost your productivity. So, yeah,
I
the
love it.
call will be a free coaching session and I'll walk you through it. And if I think we're a good fit, maybe we can do some coaching or team building. And if not, I'll be honest with you, but it's going to be free and I'm going to give you the course for free anyway.
Awesome. Love that. Hey, Paul, thank you so much again for joining us today, guys.
Oh, you're welcome.
Take advantage of that free offer. Get a free coaching session, discovery call with Paul. There's a play on words there because it's the disc. He's a
Yeah.
certified in disc. So, discovery call. So, you'll be able to get that coaching session with him. And the way to get that is to send an email to Paul at clcteam.com, and then put the subject line just Arfan podcast or Arfan YouTube. And my name is spelled Arfan, just in case I get all kinds of different spelling for my name. So I want to make sure I throw that out there. But anyways, Paul's gonna know who it's for.
I
And
won't
then
spelling.
yeah, and connect with him, guys. Definitely, get on that call, because when you learn to apply this, even if you have a small team or you don't have a team yet, what this does is puts you ahead of the curve, right? Because now, as you're if you're an entrepreneur right now and you're about to start hiring or thinking about start hiring, it could be daunting to know where do I hire? And this is this is like one of the quickest tools you can look and be like, hey, shoot, I'm an S. I need to get some D in me or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Because then you now have a more well-rounded team, especially if you can hit when you look at being efficient and multiple areas of a business, you want to have the right people around you. And if you have someone that just does everything you do, that doesn't really complement you all the way. So I think it's a great, amazing tool. And
If I can add one thing, what you said
sure.
there about the, helping on different areas, knowing this helps entrepreneurs in sales as well, because once you get on the phone with somebody, I teach you in this Team Communication Simplified course that
Mm-hmm.
once you get to know where somebody falls, you know how to talk to them. And you
Mm-hmm.
can identify that in the phone right off the bat. So
That's
you can
amazing.
identify if you're talking to a D, an I, or S, and a C. And based on that, you can talk in their language. And
Wow.
that's going to help them, connect with you better and possibly, up your sales.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Anything to like if you're listening right now, your close rate, like you're tracking your close rate. I track my close rate. And if you're tracking close rate and you can use a tool to just increase your close rate by even 2, 3, or even 5 or 10%, that's massive dividends over the years. So guys, definitely check out connect with Paul. Paul, again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Welcome.
And everyone listening, don't forget to share this episode with someone you think might be helpful. If you know someone who is about to take a supervisor role or become a new leader and they're super excited, they want to be successful, share this episode with them. Because again, when I was young and I became a manager, I was in charge of teams at 24, 25 years old. I didn't really have this type of stuff at my disposal, or at least it was available. I just didn't know about it. So share with someone. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review, drop a comment below, and we'll catch you all on the next one. Thank you so much for listening today. Bye.